Right, it's time to produce some ribs. Now last time I spoke about a number of different approaches to transferring the information from the plan onto the wood. In fact, in the end, I didn't use any of those. In fact, what I did was I actually traced the outline of the rib onto some tracing paper. Scribbled on the back with a soft lead pencil and then transferred it to the plywood, which I was then able to cut out. This is only 16, so it cut very easily. And I've actually produced two, and I'll explain how I'm going to use them in a second. So I could, of course, simply put the plywood template onto the wood, and if I wish to, I could pin it through like that and then cut round it one at a time. That's a possibility. But because I have 14 of these to make, what I intend doing is actually using both of these, and I've used a micro drill to drill a small hole through both in exactly the same position, which allows me to actually pass a pin through, a T-pin through, and that will go through a pile of balsa formers, outline blanks. So what I intend to do here is I'll put down the plywood, then cut this off, and I've selected some balsa wood that's a little bit tougher. It's not as soft and flexible. Ideally you want what's called quarter grain, but it's got a little bit of resistance to it rather than the very soft balsa, because ribs need a little bit more strength to them. I'm not going to actually draw around this exactly. All I'm going to do is mark on the position there, put the ruler on and cut off the balsa. So there's number one, and I can do that. I'll carry on doing that for each one, build them up, put the pin through, and then I'll show you what the next stage is once that's. So here we have a sandwich of balsa made up between the two ply templates, and all that I need to do now is cut the surplus off, give them a light sand, and then I've made actually 5 at a go. You could put more in, but that's a nice comfortable number to work with. There is a little bit more waste doing it this way. Well, I did in fact abandon using the sandwich method simply because it was becoming too wasteful in terms of balsa wood, and the availability and cost of balsa wood is such that that's not a wise thing to do. So what I've done is I've just used the templates to draw around, and you can see it makes far more efficient use of the available space. For some of the smaller parts, I've used the glue onto a piece of masking tape and then cut round technique, and you can see these are the end tip ribs. And here is a slightly different rib profile template, slightly smaller, and that's because this one will be sheeted. It's for the centre section, and I have 2 more ribs to cut out of the 16th, and then 2 more ribs to cut out of the 8th, and I'll illustrate basically how I do it. So you can see I can tuck that right in and make use of the available material. It's actually easier to cut the underside first. Gentle cuts, don't try to cut through all the way with the first cut. Let the point of the blade do the work rather than pressure. So nearly there, and then adjust your hands and cut round the outer edge. It's quite therapeutic, this, actually, cutting ribs. I know some people think it's an arduous task, to build from plans rather than a kit or even a short kit. But in reality, this is, to me anyway, this is part of the fun. There's no race. The weather's such that I can't get flying anyway. There's no rush to get it done. I enjoy the journey as well as the destination. So there we go. That's that one. Almost, there you go. It's almost as good as a kit. See? So that's, I need two of them and two in the slightly thicker balsa. You will notice on my stack here that I haven't cut out any of the notches for the spars, and the reason for that is, having looked closely at the plan and done a little bit of a translation, the plan calls for an upper spar and a lower spar made out of spruce, and I know that that's going to be difficult to source, so rather than cut it out and then not be able to get the correct size, I'm going to see what I can get and then cut it out. And it is actually more accurate to cut them all as a block anyway, so I would pin through these, saw through with the razor saw and nick out to make the appropriate notches for the spars. I will show you that when I get to doing that stage, but that's the sort of blank production. There are enough there for one wing and the doublers to do both wings, so I need to do another 7 of these, but it doesn't take long. Hope that inspires some of you to have a go yourself.